Hey all, Haley here. I am really excited to bring you this class that I taught at Hotel Kansas City last week. I'm teaching a monthly class in the hotel, a different medium each month, every first Wednesday of the month in a different room of the hotel. And this first class was healing through watercolors in the hotel lobby. It was so peaceful and relaxing, and we had a sold out night, just set up right here in the lobby on these two long tables. And I am so excited to bring this to you online. It's not going to be perfect, but I did my best with the equipment I had to bring you this class. I hope that you're able to watch it in a peaceful spot in your house or outside and follow along. I hopefully will be bringing higher quality classes in the future where you can really see the details of what I'm doing on my easel. But for the most part, I wanted you to catch the environment of this hotel setting, and let's give it a go. If you want to stay to the end, you will see the final piece that we make.
Hopefully I've introduced myself so far, but I'm Haley Santel, and I have been an artist my whole life. Before we get started, I'll give you a quick just kind of like background to me and how I got here, or why we're here today for this actual specific type of class too, healing through watercolors. But really what I want to bring to you guys, what I hope you take home with you, is just another tool in your toolbox for healing. We know about yoga and breathwork and meditation, and I feel like healing through art is just one more thing that we can take home with us, and we don't have to be good at it. It's art. So all we're really doing is we're expressing our emotions, we're expressing our feelings on the paper, and it can be very healing, very satisfying. A lot of times when I teach a class, people get all wrapped up in the details, like I want to make this part perfect, but I want to really encourage you guys to let go of that. I gave you some scrap paper, so we're going to experiment a little bit before we do two final pieces. But again, this is healing through watercolors, so I'm going to have a couple other classes where we're learning more technique, but for this one specifically, it's going to be a combination of breath work with watercolor, and we're going to paint the female figure, and in honor of International Women's Society. And it's an abstract figure, which is perfect for this class because my next class I'm teaching is the practice of sumie painting, which you take ink and you have one fluid brush stroke. So you breathe while you do it, and it's the art of creating the essence of that subject that you're trying to create. And so we're going to do something similar with that today. Whether you're a woman or not, we all probably respect women and women's bodies here, and so that's kind of our theme. And it's perfect because women's bodies, they're curvy for the most part. We all have different bodies if we're women, but different than men. We've got lots of curves, so it's great for fluid motions and kind of just putting on canvas the feeling of a woman's body. So that's what we're going to kind of embody today. I'm going to just tell you a brief intro about myself. I grew up painting my whole life. My grandma was a professional china painter, so a lot of people who had babysitters or nannies, I had my grandma. I would go to her house on the weekends, and she would come to my house like every day, and she would just teach me. Instead of like watching TV, we would paint and we'd draw. And so my beginnings was the beginning of my life. Really, as I was developing, art became more like very natural. Like speaking and feeling. To me, art was kind of how I would express things. And so I'm really grateful that I grew up in a family, and my mom's also a painter, and I have a deep ancestry of photography, or photographers and candle makers and things like that, entrepreneurs, and I feel grateful to have grown up in a family where art is accepted and valued, and that I was encouraged to push forward with it. So I was big into art in high school. I went to Mizzou for college, and actually my sorority sister surprised me tonight. We haven't seen each other in years, and so I went into college thinking I'm definitely going to be a painting major. Like, I'm going to college for this. Otherwise, I don't even need to go, you know. And my mom, the sweetie that she is, she encouraged me to probably get another degree as well. I don't know, you know, parents, they think, okay, you're going to get an art degree, that's great. Like, what job are you going to have? So I did a dual degree in journalism and fine arts, and the journalism guidance counselor said, you can't do that like you can't double major, this is too hard of a journalism school, but I was adamant about having a dual degree in art. But it really came in handy that I had both, because right after college I actually didn't go the path of art. I started a business and totally pivoted after I learned that underwear is the most needed and under-donated item of clothing. So totally different. I started my company called Maddie Apparel, where we donated a pair of underwear to global organizations for every item that we sold. So I designed ethical fashion, pivoted from art to ethical fashion design and entrepreneurship. We made it all here. I opened a brick and mortar store on the west side, and I ran that for 10 years, just really leaving art like in the dust. And I look back thinking, why didn't I start art right away after college if that was my passion? And thinking back, I realized it was because I didn't have really any substance to go off of. So like the skill was there, but really the heart, you know, was left behind. I didn't have really any good life experiences, so I was painting things like mermaids and beach scenes and stuff after college, which are great, but you know, it's like, what are we doing here? So then this May, some of you might know my story, and I'm going to be quick, but it has a lot to do with why we're painting the female form. I had a miscarriage in May, and then at that sonogram where they found out that I no longer had the baby, they found a giant 6-inch cyst on my ovary, so like literally this. So I had my left ovary removed. In May, I had a surgery to remove the pregnancy. In July, I had a surgery to remove the cyst and my ovary, and they weren't sure if it was cancerous or not. So it was like the craziest time. A lot was going on with my marriage, my personal life. I moved out of this giant house that we had that just was like collecting stuff, and everything just felt overwhelming. So I had this store for 10 years again, and I just was like constantly underwater, and I decided to close it, basically like while I was in the hospital for 4 nights. And while I was there and kind of like through this journey of the miscarriage and ovary removal and being like, do I have cancer and that kind of thing, I started writing poetry and I started painting again, and it brought me so much healing, and it really slowed me down so much. So Hotel Kansas City, thank you Tina for just listening to me, because I reached out to her enthusiastically in the fall asking if they would post me as an artist in residence to paint here and to display my collection so that I could literally purge like all of my feelings. And my collection was up all last month. It's called Flying in the Dark. Just took it down, but that's kind of the theme of what I went through, and what I want to share, what I want to kind of bring others in. If you're going through a hard time, if you're in a dark season, like, you can fly, you can get through it, and it's helpful to have things like painting and drawing to express those feelings. So I ended up closing my store, closing my brand. It's going online, 40% off if anyone needs anything. And we're here today. And so what I wanted you guys to just sit with is to mimic what I went through when I was healing. And that was stripping everything away, the noise, like the phones, everything, and listening. I know we're inside, and you know, there's a lot of noise going on, but we're in this present moment. That's all we have is right now. And so I just encourage you guys to take what we work on today home with you. And when you do have time and you have a moment and you're in your backyard, you have nice weather, and you listen to the birds and you listen to the train going by, and everything like that outside, you can really just soak in the moment. And so that's all we have really is this moment. And so I'm happy to be here with you guys, and just kind of excited to see what we all work on. So let's get started. We are going to start with breath work. And I know it's hard with we're in the lobby, but come to another class and we'll be in a private room. But it's hard to hear the music, so we're just going to kind of do it together. We are going to do box breathing. And the reason why we breathe when we paint at the same time is because sometimes you're creating line work like this, for example. Or like I'll do big murals and you'll have to breathe while you paint one line at the same time. And since we're going to work on making like the woman's figure on the table, you could do a few lines with it, but ideally, like when you're painting a figure, you want to go at it with one stroke. So not only for healing and relaxation do we breathe when we paint, but it's really important to know how to breathe at the same time as a stroke. So first of all, we're going to learn that and kind of like break down these segments, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're going to do first to last. We're going to just learn the breathwork technique that many of you have probably already done before. And then after that, we're going to create something like this that we're going to take home. And the two that we're painting today are actually two of my most popular watercolor originals that people buy or commission. It's meant to be abstract, but I'm going to walk you through like doing literally two of them, and then you're going to kind of go on your own. And then after that, we're going to take one of the scraps and we're going to practice this. And I'm going to give you another option too if you don't want to do line work but want to do more of like a super abstract, like over there, that woman's painting. I'll show you and you can choose. And then we'll do the final piece, and I'll show you how to do the line work in the background. We'll let it dry. We're going to take a break in the middle, and then we're going to do our final figure. So we're going to walk away with two pieces, a couple of scraps that you can keep or you don't have to, but it's mostly so we can test how the water works with the paint, how to get a high level of saturation, how to get like a washy color. And just keep in mind, I'm on this easel. Watercolor can't really be painted on an easel, so I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna have streaks all down my painting, so just bear with me. Who has, I know YouTube experimented, and you are an artist, you also are a past/current artist. Yes, she is. But who else has experimented with watercolor? Anybody? You? Okay. Rachel? A little bit? Okay. Little, okay. Who else, like, other than watercolor, like, do you paint in another medium? I know these two. What medium do you like? She's like, I'm not calling myself out. She loves the art. Okay, perfect. Toddler art, love it. Okay, I just kind of wanted to know, like, who, if anyone's, an expert in, or anything like that. That helps me as well because at least we know, like, what we're working with. Feel free to come watch or come to another. So cute. Okay, so first we're going to do the breathwork technique. It's super easy, but everyone close your eyes. This is box breathing, and a lot of you have probably done this. I know Tina definitely. Anyone who's done yoga for sure. This is what firefighters do a lot. It helps you get through really traumatic, stressful situations. But it's also very helpful for this painting strategy. So we're going to breathe in 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, and then breathe out for 4 seconds. And we're going to want to do it pretty heavily. I know we're in the lobby, so we're not going to scare anyone, but okay. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out for 4. Awesome. So we're gonna now just experiment with making the colors, and then using our first piece of scrap paper, just getting the water and the color on the paper, and then now we know the breathing technique. We'll do that at the same time before we start our first. The blobs is what I like to call this. So before we do the blobs, we're gonna experiment on the paper. So you guys probably are all. Oh, sorry, one more thing. This is for inspo. There's a poem I wanted to read so that we get in the mindset of the body. So this is from my poetry book, and the poem's called Love of My Body. And so in honor of International Women's Month, and in honor of us being here tonight, here's the poem. I'd never loved my body more until I watched what she was capable of. She's magical, honestly, but how would I have known before it all happened? In the before, I loved my curves, the way my slender waistline met my round hips and full breasts. I loved my olivey skin and hazel eyes and long, thick chocolate hair. Even the imperfections of my crackling cuticles and the crow's feet upon my eyes from a constant smile. My body, to me, was perfect before. It wasn't until the after when I really saw her for all she is, all she became. It wasn't until after my womb began housing the sweetness of a tiny baby that I considered just how incredibly beautiful that thought possibility really is. It wasn't until after the heartbeat stopped beating that I wondered if mine did too. Was it all just a dream, the fact that my body was growing another human? It wasn't until after they found a cyst the size of a grapefruit and an ovary that had to go that I cared less about a flat stomach and more about my safety. It wasn't until after they told me there could be cancer that I cared less about spending hours in the gym and more about whether I lived to see another hour under the sun. It wasn't until after the surgery, when breath filled my lungs and I exhaled a sob in gratitude, that I thought less about painting my toenails and more about the gift of simply walking down the hospital hallway. It wasn't until after a new unfamiliar scar spanned the length of my once toned, untarnished stomach that I heard my own voice beam. Isn't she beautiful? Perfectly scarred, powerfully shattered, yet masterfully renewed, resurrected in all the right ways. A humble thing to witness, isn't it? Exact same body, entirely new spirit. So I hope that just gets you guys in the presence of just being here right now, and knowing that, life is short, and this is just kind of all we have. So I just wanted to start the night with that. Sorry I didn't read it earlier when I gave the spiel. I kind of forgot. But yeah, that's what I want you guys to get out of tonight, and I'm thrilled to get started. Okay, so we've got these three... We've got these three colors, and these are the primary colors. I know that probably the majority of you guys know how this works, but just in case, we are gonna mix the colors on our scrap paper, and we're gonna test how it works with the water while we're mixing the colors to make additional colors at the same time. So just to make sure we're on the same page with how we get purple and how we get green and that kind of thing from these three colors, we're just gonna do a really quick tutorial. All right, so we're gonna start with we've got red, blue, and yellow. And even though you guys maybe already know how to mix these, we're gonna just do it together. So everybody wet your brush. And you can start with any of them. Really, I want you guys to kind of experiment with all three before we get to the final. So give each kind of a whirl as we go. Wet your brush, make sure it's not like totally soaking, but go ahead and dip it in the red paint. We're gonna start with the red paint. And then put it on your palette right next to it. Just swish it around. You wanna make sure that your brush isn't too dry. So if the paint isn't flowing, go ahead and dip more in the water and put that water right on the color. The more pink you add, the more saturated it's going to be. The more water you have, the more fluid it's going to be and transparent. But you need enough water to be able to get enough of the color on your brush. All right, now we're gonna mix a little of that yellow into the red, and we're gonna make orange. So wash out your brush. I know we're about to mix it in there, but just so you get in the practice of not muddling it, go ahead and wash out your brush, dab it on the paper, or on your towel just a little bit, and then grab some yellow. Now this is going to make probably not the most saturated orange. On each of the tables too, I have extra additional colors that are pre-mixed that you'll be able to use. Just because these watercolors, I use the accurate red, accurate yellow, that kind of thing, it'll just turn out a little bit different. But if anyone wants to experiment with like a full orange that's already created, feel free. We've got tubs all throughout you can grab. Okay, so once you made that orange, go ahead and put it on your paper and see what happens. You're gonna want it to be pretty watery. So if you get it on there and it's dry, we're just gonna make a little blob here on our scrap paper. So go in it with a circular motion, and then I like to just keep adding water to it. You don't want it to be like crazy, but just add enough water where you're able to move it around. The thing about watercolor is it dries really fast. So it kind of creates lines if you let it. When we do the blobs, we're gonna create circles like this, and then we're gonna blur out the edges with water so that we don't have these stiff lines. But for now, we're kind of just getting in practice of seeing how it feels with the brush and how to create a saturated color versus more of a watery. So we're just experimenting on our scrap paper right now. Don't worry too much. All right, next, wash out your brush. We're gonna go with yellow and blue. So on your palette, mix the yellow and the blue, and we're gonna get green. Do the same thing. You wanna kind of grab enough water where it's really fluid on your canvas, or on your palette. And you can kind of experiment too. This is the fun part. If you want your green to be more of like a forest, add more blue. If you want it to be more limey, add more yellow. And now draw that, or do a circle or a line, whatever you want to experiment with on your scrap paper. You can also experiment with, on your scrap paper, adding more color directly to that color. So if you want to just add blue on top of it, you can do that. Awesome, guys. Okay, next one, we're gonna go with red and blue, and we're gonna make purple. So do the same thing on your canvas. More red is gonna be like more of a reddish purple. More blue is gonna be more of like a deep grape. This time when you add the purple, after you get some color on there, wash out your brush all the way, make sure it's not dry, and then go ahead and kind of like sketch the circle around the outside of your circle to just blur the edges just a little bit. You'll start to see how it's already starting to dry, so that's how quickly it works, or that's how quickly like it sets in. And you'll see when we make the next piece, we're not going to want those edges. So we're just kind of experimenting with this now so we know how it works. pass around. So I don't want to leave you hanging if you run out. All right, before we move to the next step, so on these two, we're going to practice breathing when we put it on the paper. I grab a little bit of a bigger brush, like the wider one, so there's like more when you put it on the paper. But we're going to go ahead and mix a pink. So take the red and the white that I just gave you. Mix those together in any consistency that you want. So more red is a darker pink, like a magenta. More white is like a blush pink. All right, so before we put it on the canvas, get a little bit of paint on your brush, a little bit of water so it's not dry. And then we're gonna breathe in, hold it just for 2 seconds instead of 4. Really, we don't need the 4 when we're painting. So we're gonna breathe in, get air in our lungs, and then we're gonna breathe out and do a circular stroke or a straight stroke. So whichever you want, we're just gonna breathe while we do the stroke. So everybody take a breath in, breathe out. We're gonna do it one more time with the pink. Everybody breathe in, breathe out. I know it seems silly to kind of like practice this, but when you get into more detailed work, it really comes in handy. So even when we're just experimenting, I think it's helpful to like really practice it. Otherwise, you'll get in the mindset of just forgetting to breathe altogether. It's kind of like when we work out and we're like, we gotta breathe. Okay, so last color on this little sample, we're gonna make a something with the black. So you guys take any color you want and mix it with black. Black goes a long way, of course, so make sure that you just do a little dab of the black. I would get the color first that you want to go with, put it on your palette, and then take just a little dab of the black. Yellow is probably the only one that wouldn't look too fab. All right, once you've got your dark color ready, do the same thing. You can do this on your own, but just breathe in, breathe out, no matter what stroke you choose. Okay, awesome. Everyone feeling good? Yeah. Got the hang of it a little bit? Okay, next we are going to work on our first of 2 pieces. So if you guys want, I can grab all your scraps and let them dry. I'm going to put them over here. blobs. And then after that, we're gonna take a break. Whatever, go to the bathroom, get another drink or whatnot. And then we are going to start with the scrap of the final figure. I can put it over here to dry. I'm gonna put it up there. Okay guys, so can everyone see this okay? I'll try to stay out of your way. You too. Okay, so we're gonna do this together and probably one more, this one, just so we can be on the same page with colors. And then once we get kind of the technique together, you guys can do your own colors or do like as many blobs as you want or stick to what I have here, that kind of thing. Turn your paper whichever direction you want. I like vertical, but really the final piece, you can hang it however you want. It's abstract. All right, we're gonna start with like a lime green. Up here, this right here. So we're gonna get mostly yellow with just a little bit of green. So if you need green again, I'm gonna pass around some other greens too, just in case you like that. But to get green again, yellow and blue, and you mix that first, and then you add a little bit more yellow to make it bright. And I've got like an electric yellow here too. Okay, everyone have like a lime green ready to go? Okay, cool. So get a little bit of water on your brush. Go ahead and dip it in your color. And we're gonna get it on the canvas in sort of like a oval shape. If you see mine on here, it doesn't quite match up with this one over here that I'm trying to mimic. And that's because it's not saturated enough. So that means I have too much water, not enough color, and or it's too yellow, not enough green. So you guys can make it however you want, but if you do want to match it up, use mine as an example. I got to go back in and add a little bit more green into there, and just a little bit more paint. So you you guys are on watercolor paper now, not scrap paper, so you'll notice that it's going to react a lot better to the paint. It's going to help soak it up more, but it's also going to help you create less harsh of edges. So if you want it to be more fluid, like these blobs that I have here, since you've just added that paint onto the canvas, wash out your entire brush and then go ahead and take like one exterior smooth edge around the edge of this oval with just water on your brush, and it's going to smooth out the edge so that it's not a harsh line. Perfect. Now, while we still have a little bit of, while that's still a little bit wet, we want to go in with the next color because they're going to blend together just a little bit. So while you're thinking of it, go ahead and add just a little bit of water on your brush and put water all over what you just put on the canvas. Okay, now we're going to take a version of blue. It's a pretty straightforward blue, but if you want to create any variation, darker or lighter, go ahead. You could do like a baby blue if you added white into the blue. You could do a navy blue if you added black in. I'm just going to go with a straightforward blue, just like I have here on the canvas. Okay, so now again, mix it on your canvas, get water, enough that it's pretty watery, but make sure it's saturated enough. Get it on your brush, soaking the brush, and then go ahead and slap it onto your canvas. And go ahead and butt it right up against that lime green that you painted. Now, right on top of that blue, go ahead and just add water. It's going to be hard to show you because I'm up and it's just going to go all the way down my canvas, but it's going to create more of a fluid and interesting look inside of this. And this is the special thing about watercolor. You kind of want them to flow together. You'll start to get real muddly though if you mix them all the way in. So really what you want to do is just butt it up to the edge of that lime green. What I like to do now that you've got that color on, go ahead and just add blue on top of that again. You want to create more of a deeper saturated paint color. So until you feel happy with it, add blue, add water, and make sure it's pretty watery. You don't really ever want it to be like dry unless you're doing maybe a detail like a house or something like that, and you need really fine edges. I'm going to go ahead and add like a navy to this as well, and just kind of add a little bit more depth here in the center. Then I'm going to wash my brush off, dry it off just a little bit, and kind of combine that in so I've got like some depth of color here in the middle. And again, sorry, mine's like falling down the edge. It's harder to show you, but anyone struggling? Getting the blurry edge. That's a great green. Okay guys, we're gonna start the next vlog. If you're using a small brush, go one size bigger. Or if you have your biggest brush, perfect. If you just are happy where you are right now, keep whatever you have. But just so you have like an option and see if you end up liking that better with this process. Okay, we're gonna do this one down here next. Everyone see this one? It's like kind of this rainbow one, and it's not a full circle, so it'll be kind of fun to do. First, we're gonna start with the orange blob in the middle. So yellow and red. Or again, there's some of those pre-mixed ones on the tables that you can grab. And if anybody needs me to throw you one, just raise your hand or holler at me. All right, once you got an orange you're happy with, go ahead and get it on the canvas. It's kind of an oval shape, but you can make it really whatever you want. It's just going to be kind of like the heart of this blob right here. After you get that paint on there, remember, wash out your brush, make sure there's still water on it, and add water right on top of it, just kind of blurring the edges. We just don't want any hard lines. So because it dries so fast, when you're ready to make a new color, since it takes you, like 10 or 15 seconds to make a new color on your palette, you want to make sure that whatever you just put on there is wet and that you've created like blurred edges so that it doesn't dry and it's not too late, if that makes sense. Okay, next we're going to do that yellow that's right along the top of the orange. So grab just a regular old yellow. Maybe it has a little bit of orange in it, but we're going to mix it up right up next to the orange and they're probably going to flow together anyway. All right, so kind of make a hat over this orange right here and just get the paint on there. And then once you have the paint on there, you're gonna wash out your brush, leave water on it, and then you're gonna make kind of watermarks at the top. You're just gonna drag the water into the color and blur it up here. Once you get water on there on top of your paint, you're gonna go back in with the paint and just add that paint on top of the water. And it's gonna create just like a really beautiful dynamic of a blurred edge, no fine line, but that water will make it look fluid. And you're just gonna drag that yellow into the water and into the orange below it. And they're gonna kind of start to flow together. Okay, perfect. Now we're gonna do this blue over here. And we're gonna drag it in. That's kind of just a regular blue. It's not even a baby blue. It's just a watered down version of blue, but you could add white into it if you want. Same thing, get that blue on your brush, make sure it's full of water. And you're gonna go in with, just kind of barely connect it to the orange and the yellow for now. We're just getting the paint on the canvas. Once you've got it on there, wash out your brush and start blurring those edges along the sides. Once you've got water on top of that color, when it's on the canvas, then go ahead and take more blue, just like we did before, and add the blue directly again on top of that water, and it's going to start flowing. And again, that just creates different color textures. Instead of it just being like a flat color right on the paper, the water is what we want to see. That's kind of the point of watercolor. It makes it more fluid, just more interesting. And you really want the water to kind of work for you. It'll take the paint around. Awesome, guys. All right, we're going in with purple. We're gonna hit this part right here on the bottom. make that color, get it on your brush. First thing is get it on the canvas. And I like to create this little node at the bottom, kind of like a little nub, so it's not a perfect circle. It just kind of creates something interesting. Wash out your brush, get water only, and then add water on top of that to create blurred lines. And you're going to be connecting it into the other colors. And then lastly, just like we did all the other times, take the color one more time and add it on top of that water. And it's just going to add more saturation into the color. And the water will move it around. Now while it's wet, or add water on top of anything you've done, if there are any of these colors in here that you want to add a little bit more to, like saturation or deepen the color, feel free to do that now. Like I'm going to make my orange in the middle kind of pop a little bit more, so I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bit more here to the center. I'm going to put paint right on top of what I did, and then I'm going to wash my brush, just put water on it, and then move that water around to blur the line. And don't be afraid to really let them kind of flow together. You don't want to muddle them up, but it's fun when they kind of intersect. Alright guys, I'm going to let you do the next one, and I'm going to come around and see if anybody needs more paint or needs any help. Feel free to make like 1 or 2 more blobs, whatever you feel like will work best on your canvas, or however you envision it. You can make it bigger or smaller, a couple different sizes. Just do the same technique. Yeah, sounds whatever you're about to say. Sounds right. Feels right. And if anyone needs another palette, okay. Yeah, if anyone needs an extra palette, I gave you 2, but there are more. So if you feel like yours are getting full, you can switch to the one underneath, and I can pick up the one that's it's shooting like super soaked. Are you good so far? Okay, I've got more back here, so if anyone gets I tend to use a lot of water, so I go. Wow, that was a big one.
and they're just bothering me.
Okay, whenever you guys wrap up, let me know if anyone's finished and I'll pull yours to the side to dry, and then we're gonna take a break here in a second.
Yes, that's back to my.
Yes.
I'm trying to reconcile it. You can pull it off. We got a thing for a minute.
That's the thing.
That's it.
Oh,
You have one focus.
Well, I was gonna say, I do like, we're like, okay, it's leaking over here.
Okay, so we're gonna start with one color of your choice, and then like a variation of that color. So let's say you want to go with red. You might want to also on your palette make like a pink, or also make like a maroon. So it's gonna be monochromatic, but make like two versions of it, sort of a lighter and sort of a darker, and then go ahead and mix those on your palette, and then we're gonna throw them on the canvas in sort of like a wash.
Thank you so much.
once you have that color, go in with the original. So I'm gonna say, let's again refer to red. Let's say you did red as your main color, and then you had pink as sort of like an additional area or an additional color for variation. Go on get some red on your brush or whatever that primary color you choose, and you're gonna want to make it pretty watery, but with enough paint on it where it's not too thin. And don't be afraid, you're gonna get a lot of paint on that brush. Like on if anyone can see, it's hard to show you, but you're gonna make it pretty watery, but with enough color on there. And then you're gonna slap it on your canvas like this. I'm not using watercolor paper, so it's gonna dry a lot faster. But after you drop on that primary color, on top of that, take water. Wash out your brush and take water on top of it. You might want to take circular strokes. Here, I think I need to get watercolor paper. Hold on. Got to get better paper here so you can really see. Don't be afraid with like the color that you add, just go ahead and slop it on there. But the whole point of this variation is you want to make it watery, no lines. So once you get that color on there, just like we practiced with the blobs, maybe make fluid strokes like this. See, it's a lot better with the watercolor paper. But before letting it dry, wash out your brush and add water right on top of that so that you create this fluid texture. There aren't really going to end up to be lines. That's just how we get the paint on the canvas. I like to leave little white spots. You can't get white spots back. Like you can't add white to watercolor. So it's kind of fun to leave some negative space. Okay, now that you have that main color, go ahead and add either the darker or the lighter color, whichever one you chose. And go ahead and start bringing that in and just select areas. Like you see how I'll kind of just have fun with it? It's just to add some variation. Once you get that paint on there though, remember, wash out your brush, get water at it, and add water on top again, like a wash. And just go over it in a fluid motion, circles, and get out that line work. And the last step, just like we did before with the blobs. So first we add the paint, then we add the water to get the fluid texture. And then we take that color one more time and add that on top of the water.
Ooh, is it good?
Having a couple areas of darker and a couple areas of lighter just gives more variation and more depth. And this is a lot easier. I forgot to say this, sorry guys, but with the wider, flatter brush. So if anyone's not using that, it's okay either way, but it's easier to do washes like this with like the flat, bigger brush. Alright guys, so I'm going to hand out another scrap paper because I realized probably most of us took up the whole page before we did the line work. I didn't really expect that. So I've got little ones, but we're going to do the lines first on. I'm going to hand them out. I think I'm just going to get to the next trial.
It's dead. It's dead. It is white. It's dead. Alright, can I clear those for y'all? She said yes.
Like,
Yeah, I was trying to say it. I was trying to say it.
I wish I did that. I genuinely feel like I progressed. Y voilà. Whatever. It changed from brown to white. It changed from brown to yellow.
Okay, we're going with the second trial, and we're going to do the line work. So this is the one that is on your table. They're references, so you can see a little bit more close, which is going to help with the figure. We're going to do line work like this, and then we're going to decide each individually which one we want to do for our background for the final. But let's get this one going, and we're not going to do all the lines. I'm just going to show you in a couple, just like 3 lines, how it looks and how it feels, and then we're gonna choose and get to the final so that we have enough time. Okay, so with this, we wanna go with about to be monochromatic for the most part again, but you want a variation of it. So see how this is like green, forest, and then there's like a yellowy green? You could do versions of brown, you could do versions of blue, but it's nice to have like 3 tones. So try to make a lighter, a darker, and a middle, or like a yellowy version of a green, a blue version of a green, or whatever you choose to go with. Make 3 variations of the color. Here's another example of it in brown. So if you just want to see, the first one is green, and this one's like brown shades. Okay guys, like we talked about in the beginning, this is one that's really important to do with breath work. So if we remember the box breathing, we can cut out the part in the middle where we hold at the top of our breath, but we're going to breathe in for 4 seconds, and then we're going to paint that stroke when we breathe out. So just to practice it, breathe in, breathe out. So I'll show you how that looks. It's pretty much exactly how it sounds, but you're gonna grab one of those colors and make sure that it's not dry, because we're gonna make this one fluid brush stroke. And I'm gonna breathe in, breathe out. And you're gonna drag it all the way down. If, let's say, like this was too light for what I was wanting, it's not too late. You can go back on top of it, and it's gonna be okay. So, like, let's say I'm kind of messed up and I didn't get enough paint on my brush, or it was too dry. You can get more water, get more paint, and go right back over it. You just, again, that's why the breath work comes in handy, because it really helps you line up and be really consistent with your line. And I can go right back over it. Okay, what I recommend is taking like a tiny, tiny gap between the next line. Then if you want it to just be fully one block, that's totally okay. This is art, you make it how you want. But I'm gonna take like a tiny gap in between that, and I'm gonna go with a slightly darker version of that color. I'm gonna start at the top, breathe in, and breathe out. So mine ended up to be a little dry. I didn't get enough water, and I didn't get enough paint. So I'm gonna go back over that. I'm gonna grab more water, I'm gonna grab more paint, and I'm gonna go right back over that one. Because you really want the edges to not crack on this watercolor paper. If it's too dry, you'll notice that it's like it'll have this kind of cracked edge. You want it to be a fluid line, and you want to see that water kind of like dripping throughout it. All right, next line, one more version of that color. So like either a lighter or a darker version. I'm gonna go with like a lighter kind of pink here. Breathe in and then breathe out as I bring it down. So for anyone who's going to do this as the background for your final piece, what I would recommend is going back to the first color and doing that sequence again. So like if I were to be doing this for the final, we're not going to go all the way through, but I'd grab that original color and I'd drag that through next. And then go in a sequence of 3 like that. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's kind of just about like creating a nice wash of color in the background. And at home, if you try this again, it'll be a lot more relaxing because you can just relax, put on some meditation music, maybe a candle, incense, and just really like feel the brush stroke. All right, we're gonna spend about 1 more minute on this just to get the hang of it, and then we're gonna go to the final, and you're gonna choose which one you wanna go with. You might take home 3 pieces. I love it.
I think that's is the season.
All right, guys, wrapping up that scrap. I'm gonna come around and take those so they can dry, and then go ahead and bring your final. Oh, I need to hand out your final canvas.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, that's really good.
That's like I feel like it's feeling self-portrait. That way we don't get like blurred lines. I know we only have so much time, and I'm sorry to rush you guys. Okay, so I gave everyone black, and we're gonna want to take your either one of the non-flat brushes. If anyone doesn't have one, let me know. But you could do the little one, or you could do the bigger one, depending on what size you have or want. But really, these are watercolor brushes. We just want them to have a fluid, easy to move, flexible brushes. So there are different brushes. Some are for acrylic, some are for oil. Those usually have stiffer bristles. So watercolor, the brushes are very fluid. Kind of like a bamboo brush, like with sumi painting, like they have a lot of wiggle room. All right, so with this part, really I want to emphasize not worry about what the figure looks like. I have these in front of you as references, so you can look at them as we go, and we're going to kind of go stroke by stroke. We're going to try to do the figure in as few of strokes as we can, because the whole point is just being fluid. If it feels better to you to kind of take it section by section, please do. Go at your own pace. For whoever wants to kind of follow along like exactly as I do it, I'll go, you can just follow each stroke. I'm going to kind of like do the arm and then, you know, do the side, the leg, and we'll kind of go together. But if you feel like going at your own pace and doing your own thing, or if you want to do a completely different figure, or just kind of wing it based on like what's in your head, please do. You don't have to follow this at all. It's just kind of one that we can all do together if you prefer to follow along and that's the way like your brain works. But everyone is different. If you have something on your phone or something in your head that you want to do instead, like please have at it. All right, so this one's again really important that we have a really saturated black. So you want like the blackest black on your canvas with a little bit of water. You don't want it to be super watery because it's going to go all over your page and it might spread. But you do want it to be really full and saturated on your brush. So that black that I passed around, you're going to dig into it. If it's dry, get a little bit of water in there. But grab as much paint as you can. Really flood your brush with it, but make sure there's enough water so it has room to move. Feel free to look at the references, but we're going to start with this arm going into the breast and then all the way down into the hip line. So this is going to be like one smooth line right here that we're going to do. Using your breath work, you're going to breathe in and then breathe out with the fluid stroke, and then whatever feels natural to you. I'm going to take it in segments to make it easy, but if you want to do the whole side, feel free. And again, don't feel like embarrassed or don't feel like your piece is wrong or different if it doesn't line up like this. So just do what feels best and feels right to you, and then we're all just going to do our best. Okay, starting with the top right corner, I'm going to start with the arm and go all the way down. I'm going to breathe in and then breathe out as I do the stroke. Breathe in. So to me, it just felt best to go all the way down. But if you want to stop at the hip just to make sure like you're feeling good about it, please do. You'll see with mine that it's just not saturated enough for my liking. I want it to kind of look like ink, like I want it to be a really dark black. So what I'm going to do is just like we did before, I'm going to go back into my paint and just grab way more paint, just like we did with the background lines. And I'm going to go right over that line using the same technique. Don't forget to breathe. It'll help you do like a straighter line and not have wiggles if your hand's a little shaky. And just don't be afraid to just go at it. Go with what you feel. And again, the perks of a woman's body is we have curves, and so you can kind of make it however you want. All right, I'm gonna now work from right to left and go with this little V right here. I'm gonna breathe in and breathe out. Does everyone have enough black? Anybody need more? Okay. All right, now I'm gonna go from the top left arm into the breast and let it curve around. I'm gonna breathe in and breathe out. And then I'm gonna hit that hip line and go down back into the leg. Last part, I'm gonna go from the middle of the legs all the way down. And I like to create just like another line or two here for kind of like the shadow of the legs or the thighs. You could also do a little, I guess like shadow line along the hip on the inside if you want. And if there are any areas that you feel like you don't love that shape, you can kind of go back in and just add slight little details. Like I'm gonna go in and kind of fix this to round it out just a little bit more. Does anybody need any help, questions? Okay. Okay, another, just like if anybody does make kind of like a boo-boo, an error, if you work fast enough, you can take it out. Sometimes it dries, but you can try if you want to, like let's say you made a drop on accident, like right here. If it's not fully dry, or even if it is, you can add water to it and even a little bit more of the color, and you can kind of drag it into like a different shape. If it's wet enough, you can fully wet your brush and then go in and you can smooth it in here. See how I'm doing that? I just blended it in. So you can erase it if you work fast enough. So make sure if you do make an error that you take the water in the brush like ASAP. And you can take a bit of your napkin and pull it in. But if you wait more than like 15 seconds, it's gonna be pretty permanent. You'll have to kind of like pivot from there. variants we're trying or expressing feed upon my eyes with a constant smile. My body to me was perfect before.